afternoon, everybody. I am looking at the people who are joining us already, welcoming them in the virtual meeting room. Once again, a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us today on another Dutcham webinar. This is a webinar which is a bit of a special one because we will have a new kickoff today of a series of what we will call the 40 minutes CEO lunch talk. And I'm very happy, very proud that I have today one of our business leaders from our Dutch companies who is willing to join us today. He's not only a very inspiring leader, what the team calls him, but he's also a person who is very much engaged in a lot of social and human projects. But above all, it's a very nice and a warm person. So I'm very happy that I can welcome Mauricio Adade today as our first guest in this CEO talk. Very well welcome, Mauricio. You're already there. I see you already.
Yes, I am already here. I'm listening and I'm getting a little bit, I'm so humbled that you're saying and you're just raising the bar. I don't know exactly. I will do my best here, but it's really a pleasure to be here. Fantastic opportunity. And thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Dutcham. I think it's a great initiative. Many leaders will come here and then share their views. Much appreciated to be here. I'm really pleased.
Okay, well, allow me, Mauricio, to propose, because I see that still a lot of people are coming in. We have already a very big crowd. It is also, by the way, one of the most crowded events that we are having at Dutcham. So again, raising the bar for you. But allow us maybe to give a bit of time to the attendees to come in, to sit back and relax. I will ask Duda maybe to put on a video, because we found a very nice video, could be a really nice introduction, I think, for DSM. So maybe we can have just a few minutes to look at this video, and we pick up the discussion in a second.
There's one thing I believe in, and that's our ability to adapt to our environment, to transform in order to survive. Look at this company. What started from harvesting coal in the mines became petrochemicals.
At the time, it was a necessary solution to the demands of a growing population.
But as life changes, needs change.
So it was time for them to change as well.
Exactly.
What was once a local coal mining company, they've grown to become a global science player in health, nutrition, and materials.
Through this transformation, the company flourished.
The challenges of nutrition and climate change and managing the Earth's resources can't be solved with just governments alone.
We need these companies with the technological expertise and innovative power to provide answers.
That's why DSM has decided to take the ultimate step in their transformation.
It's what they've been building towards over the past century.
Arrived at the true purpose of the company.
The reason for their existence. To create brighter lives.
For all.
And with 1 in 4 people across the world already benefiting from their products, I believe they can do exactly that. From the dark tunnels of the Dutch state mines, something beautiful arose, a love for our world and humanity expressed through science, balancing profitable growth with playing a positive role in the world.
Using bright science to create solutions for people today and generations to come. Healthy living, a stable climate, and a bio-based circular economy for all. I believe it's possible.
And I'm not the only one.
I think, Mauricio, very nice introduction of a very nice company, and we are talking in a second about DSM, obviously. But let me first ask you the question. A lot of people know you, obviously, as the president of DSM for LATAM, but who is Mauricio Adade?
Yeah, in fact, I said, I mean, three sentences will come after Corona that will remain in our mind. First question is, you are in mute. Second question is, can you see my screen? And the third question I'll let you know at the end of my conversation. So who's Mauricio Adade? I think, first of all, let's start with important things. Married, 28 years married with Ana Paula, who is standing me all these years. 2 kids. Gustavo and Gabriel. Gustavo living here with us. Gabriel living in Brussels, 24, 25.
Very good choice.
Yeah, you can imagine. So it was by design. I said to him, go to Belgium because it's a fascinating country. I've heard this from Peggy. And I had to say that on top of being the person responsible for Latin America of DSM, I have been doing other activities. So from background, I have studied food engineering in Campinas. Then I did my master's focus in marketing in the Escola Superior de Propaganda e Marketing. And since then, I have this opportunity to go to many leading institutions and having these beautiful training courses that help quite a bit to try to get us updated. But I think since 1988, I started DSM. Well, I have to say DSM Roche, by the time I was working for Roche, that in 2003 was acquired by DSM. And throughout these years, I have been leading 21 out of all these years. 21 of them, I was out of my country, living in Mexico, living in Singapore, Switzerland, Belgium, and the Netherlands. So a whole life of rich of experiences and blessed to have this kind of life, and even more blessed because I had the opportunity 5 years ago to land back in my home country, Brazil. I continue to feel very much Brazilian, although some people say that I am sometimes Brazilian light. I can understand that after all these years here and there, you end up acquiring some of the cultures, or at least partially, but I continue to feel very Brazilian. And on top of the activities that I perform as the Latin America in Brazil, which is a fantastic activity. Very, as you can imagine, Latin America, it's very, very challenging, but also dynamic.
Vibrating.
Exactly, very vibrating place. I mean, I think people that come from abroad that have experienced this place here normally try to stay. But I do have other responsibilities. I've been part of a couple of boards. GAIN board, that it's a foundation that deals with malnutrition. So it's a quite important foundation. Sight and Life, I'm part of the board of Sight and Life. I also work in the nutrition field. I am also globally in DSM responsible for what we call malnutrition partnerships and programs. It's a global activities where we develop new business models to tackle malnutrition all over the world. And also we deal with all the partnerships that we have within the corporation that are related to nutrition. So I think that is quite important. We have activities here in Latin America, we're starting, but we have activities already in Africa. We have activities in India, Bangladesh, always trying to make the business models that really work, that are sustainable, that they are for profit. Yeah, they are doing good and doing well. I know we'll come back to that probably during our interview.
Indeed, because
go ahead. Sorry.
No, because indeed we will come back to, let's say, these social engagements that you have on top of your role as president a bit later on. But bringing maybe the discussion back to DSM, obviously everybody knows it's a Dutch sign-based company, but who became throughout the years already a very important world player in terms of nutrition, health, and sustainable living, right? But how important is LATAM, and especially Brazil, I would say, in this whole picture of DSM? Worldwide?
Yeah, thanks. Normally European international companies, when it comes to Latin America, and obviously Brazil plays a very important role here. The representation in the total revenue, it's about 3 to 5%. Yeah, depending, there are of course exceptions of that. But in our case, being a company that is working hard in nutrition, also in special materials, we represent 12% of the total revenue of DSM. What makes us quite a sizable but also important activity for DSM globally. We have around 2,200 people. We have 20 plants, and we operate in 16 countries in Latin America. For us, Latin America is everything, including Mexico. Some organizations do it differently. So DSM really plays a very key role in Latin America, and mainly in the place where we are very strong is in nutrition. And when I say nutrition, is human nutrition and animal nutrition, both. So if you think that the amount of people that we have in Latin America that are still hungry, it's about 45 million people. It's not small. We have a huge responsibility also from a social perspective.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the animal nutrition, because we are integral part of the food chain, and from that perspective, we are bringing food and also bringing nutrition to all the citizens in Latin America and in the world.
Mm-hmm. Big challenges indeed. I think, Mauricio, when I remember the first time I visited you in Sao Paulo in the office, I was immediately taken by your great spirit of purpose-led and performance-driven mentality in the company. It was not just, you know, a sign on the wall. You feel that as soon as you step into the office, I mean, you feel that everybody is very much engaged in this mission of the company. But what does it exactly mean? Because it's such a general thing to say we're purpose-led, but what does it exactly mean for DSM, and how does that reflect in your daily operations?
We have started many years back, and talking about more than 10 years back, in having our strategy based in 3 pillars that are people, profit, and planet. So since then, when the word sustainability was still somebody that is sitting at the corner and then is planting 2 trees throughout the year, since then, we are already very, very linked the two, that is possible to do good business and is making the world better. So our business, most of it is related to addressing this and then bringing solutions to the world that are, for our perspective, giving us a reasonable return, but also they are addressing main challenges like malnutrition in the world, addressing issues like climate change, and environment and economic issues that are making this world a bit more complicated for all of us. So I perhaps can give you, let me lend it a little bit, because give solutions is so
exactly. Make it concrete.
It sounds beautiful, isn't it? But I mean, what the heck do you do? So I said to you, we are involved in animal nutrition. It's a very important part of our business, mainly here in Latin America. So we have been working more or less around 20 years in developing a molecule, something that is very safe, because all the innovations we have in these corporations are science-based. Let me start with that. So 20 years of looking into how can we make sure that in animal nutrition, in building animal protein, in developing animal protein today, we can do this in a more sustainable way. And what is this molecule is able to do after all these years of making sure that is safe, but also brings the efficacy that we are looking at, and it's not interfering in any way in the nutrition of the animal. So for cattle, dairy cattle and beef cattle, this molecule that we have called it Bovaer, it reduces in 30% the level of methane gas that is just out from the cows. If you imagine every cow is a BMW, so you can imagine what does it do to the atmosphere if you reduce 30% of this gas, methane. Mm-hmm. So this is one example where we are now working with the different, not only the farmers, but also the governments all over the world to implement that. Because yes, we will do business out of it, because we have been investing 20 years of research. However, this is a solution to have a production of animal protein in a much better and sustainable solution.
Yeah, well, which I think indeed now these days people want to have this kind of extra purposes in a company, right? It's not only about making money and doing business, but now, obviously, today, well, we can't go around. I mean, COVID has changed completely our world. It has shaken the world completely upside down. I cannot imagine that DSM has not been impacted so far by this crisis. How sensitive or how vulnerable is DSM in this for this crisis?
Yeah, you said it correctly. The whole world, I mean, with no exception, has been impacted. All sadly, it will be still impacted. Is the case of the African continent. Now we are not exception. The DSM is not exception, and we have somehow we have the luxury of having a business that is still working. Our nutritional side, as I said before, as we are integral part in the food chain, we must continue our job. Otherwise, I mean, it will jeopardize nutrition and food for people around the world. By the way, I think we are now starting to realize that the COVID issue is not only a virus issue, a public health issue, but will very much become a food security issue. There will be no food for the people, the more vulnerable people. So we cannot stop. So that is in one hand positive, because we have been working hard in a very different way. All our administrative people, they are in home office, but our plants, following very strict protocols, they continue to operate. We cannot have the luxury to stop. With that comes a tremendous responsibility. Yeah, if you talk about social responsibility, that is one of our main objectives and also part of our values. Is tremendous, because we should not stop. And for that, we have been giving to all our employees a couple of different incentives to make sure that they continue with the journey, because it's not easy. If you have to go to wake up in the morning and then take a transportation and go to the plant. And of course, in our plants, everything is very secure in regards of APIs and the way that we are operating with social distance, etc. But I think, I mean, it's quite complicated. So from that perspective, we have been supporting our employees. We have been giving the whole world in the sense that, I mean, if you don't have to take public transportation, also because sometimes there is no public transportation. So we have worked into that. We have been facilitating for their families additional support in food. Yeah, because sometimes it's difficult if you ask people to take the responsibility and not expose themselves. I mean, how they do if they need to buy food. So we supply this to them and other activities. So all in all, we have been very much impacted. Our part of our business, that is material, has been negatively impacted, because if you believe that, yeah, we have around 45% of our total material business goes directly to automotive, which is a segment that practically disappeared. So we are, as everybody in these segments, having the heat. Although, I mean, in balance, we have just the first quarter has been okay for us. It's been comparable to first quarter last year. But the main question remains, what is happening in the future? And this is a good debate, and perhaps we'll have a discussion in another discussion.
I will ask you the question in a second, because indeed, well, how will we look to the future? But that's in a second. Just coming back to the employees, because I think it's important to share that as well. I mean, most of the people, they are working from out of home. I mean, not besides of the people who have to go to the plants because they continue. But if we talk about people in the office, they are all working remotely. How can you also take care of these people? Because it's not been easy, right, these days. I mean, to motivate and engage people from this remote version. How do you deal with that, Mauricio?
Yeah, no, in fact, not easy, but we have put very high priority to our employees, the people that really have to make it happen. So a couple of examples of things that we have done. So in my case, I think it's quite important that the leader is present, that you show your presence, but it's not the presence that of the manager, it's the presence of a human leader, that you also share that you have constraints. It's not easy to stay at home. that you communicate in a way that connects not only rationally, but also emotionally to people. I think that we have done this with a variety of the different teams. As we have 2,000 people, it's not too effective if we do at the same time. I prepare myself and also other leaders, we prepare very short videos with messages to the people about what is going on and how can we motivate and recognize the work that they have been doing. Quite important. I think that one very important topic that we have learned throughout this crisis is that people that are working at home, they have changed their routines. We all of a sudden we have invaded their homes, and we get to know dogs, cats,
exactly,
etc. So I have prepared a very short video, because nobody has the time, neither the patience to watch long videos. Very short video that I asked our collaborators, our employees. I said, this video is not for you. Please make sure that people at your home watch this video. Where I was there recognizing their role, a very key role. They have to be very patient. I mean, if you see your husband, your wife, or your father or your mother, I mean, the whole time talking to a screen the whole day, and you really, you have to allow that. You have to be patient. Sometimes you have to be quiet. So I indeed, I mean, make sure that we recognize this kind of work. So presence, leadership presence is very important. And another, just to complete another project that we have done globally that I feel very proud here in Latin America. We are the biggest producers of vitamins in the world. And you know, we know science-based again that some of the vitamins and some of the micronutrients, they boost your immunity. So we have taken the responsibility of giving to our employees, but not only for them, for their family members. We have been given the vitamins that are related to the immune defense boost, and they receive, in the case of Latin America at home, portions for 2 months for them and their family members. And it's amazing to see how the people, and it's so emotional to see people receiving it, that this gives me a bit of the strength to continue throughout the crisis and continue to make a lot of things, because it's
small things. Small things indeed to help them get them through this crisis, right? Talking about that, Mauricio, I mean, I think we should not underestimate the mental health of people in this crisis. I mean, you're a father. You said it in the beginning. You have 2 children at home, even when they are already at a bit of an older age. I mean, how do you think this crisis will impact this young generation who is going through really difficult times as well?
Yeah, here we go. A Silenium is speaking about millennium. So it is fascinating, because a young generation, they normally are much easier with these digital connections, and this is the good part. Yeah, they are used to that. In fact, I mean, it's fascinating that I see my son here playing a video game with the whole world. And how much engaged this is, etc. Now, on the other hand, I mean, young people, listen, they need contact. They need a social life. It's not only
this is different. It's exactly. It's not only the computer. It's not only the chatting. It's
absolutely. So I think, I mean, and there is where I think, I mean, the anxiety comes, and that is where the also getting into these mental and psychological, emotional disorders become an issue. We at least from a DSM perspective, by the way, this is not new. This is already this kind of mental disorders. They have been there, and they have just been exacerbated by this the issue that we have. So at least from DSM perspective, what we have done, we have for the whole Latin America, we have a 0800 number called contact, and this contact, people at home, they feel free to call this number if they feel something different and they need to talk to professionals that understand more psychologically. It is a number that is 24 hours, 7 days per week, and people can access. But not only our employees, again, it's extensive to the family members. So sometimes, even when we do this, and even as a father, we try to do our best, but it's not enough because we are not professionals. Yeah, you have this emotional limit.
Exactly. And we're all facing the same thing. So
absolutely. So, and on top of it, people don't feel very comfortable to share everything via a screen with the boss. I think that then we say, well, let's do that. On top of it, we have some psychologists that work with for our company, and they have agreements, and they do these webinars as well, just to give some tips to the people, just to address, because they are, yeah, of course, it's their profession, they know much better how to address. And we have launched a survey to our people in Latin America, just to understand how are you feeling in this new way of working. Yeah, that we stop guessing, and when we do these webinars, we are much more into this direction. But it's really something that we have to tackle and not take it lightly.
And it depends indeed how long this will go on, right? I mean, because we're not at the end yet. Bringing the discussion, Mauricio, back to business. I mean, we can't deny or we have to recognize that a lot of companies are going under a lot of stress in terms of sales. I mean, sales is down, but we also have, in addition to that, in Brazil, I think the important impact on the FX rate, which is putting an additional pressure on companies. How should companies tackle these things to get their company financially healthy, or to keep their company financially healthy? I mean, I think it's a big challenge now for the leaders, because it's the health of the people, it's the well-being of the people, but at the end of the day, we all have to bring our results in, right?
Yeah, it is. I think when it comes to crisis, there are a couple of values that are important. In my view, 3 of them come to mind, and 3 that are I think, needed in order to tackle. And they are innovation, collaboration, and speed. And why I say that, I mean, if your market simply disappear, it's quite difficult that you alone by yourself try to be creative and develop something that is different. So that is where collaboration plays a role. People need to have a creative space for this collaboration to bring new ideas. What can I do differently? And it goes from reducing, or instead of letting people go, reducing salaries for a period of time that you do collectively, but with collaboration, up to get innovative ways of tackling the business that you have. So it's a small example, some theaters in Sao Paulo that, yeah, you don't have anybody, correct? But the theaters, they also produce popcorn. So what these guys have been doing, they start to distribute popcorn and then sell popcorn that is very good quality popcorn to the people in the neighborhood of the theaters. So is this solving the entire issue? No, but is this a innovative way of getting some cash in? Yes, and I think this
comes down to creativity, right? This is
totally innovative and creativity. They go hands to hands, and speed. Because if you start to in the middle of the crisis, if you want to be 100% correct, yeah, and normally then you talking about dogs, you have one. If you want really to be right at this I do without making any mistakes, then speed does not play a role. So you better be 80-20. You better try to do something that at the end of the day is possible, and that you have good elements to judge and say, yeah, this can bring me something that is positive, go for it. Do not wait till you have the last comma defined. This is something that we have been utilizing in our businesses.
Exactly. Well, it will be, and again, still a bit of a challenge for a lot of companies to find this balance, but for sure, I think it will come down on creativity and to survive this crisis. Talking about this crisis, then the question that everybody asks himself is, when will we get back to normal, Mauricio? When will life, and probably especially here in Brazil, because looks like we still have a long way to go. We're facing now probably even more severe rules from the São Paulo government in the coming weeks. I mean, that means that we're not at the end yet. But how do you see it personally? When will we get back to the normal, what they call to the new normal?
Yeah, this is 1 million question, and I think first of all, I'm an optimist by nature, and I think it will pass. Perhaps we will still have some issues in front and some challenges in front of us, but I have the confidence it will pass. And of course, the day after, the way I call it, it will not be the same. I don't think.
How different will it look? How different will it look?
I hope it's not going to be the same. And of course, I mean, everybody has a lot of discussions in webinars talking about the processes. Yeah, digital, there's been a speed up, and then what is happening now with, for instance, the sharing. Yeah, so you see a lot of issues with the sharing, with what is happening with Uber, what is happening also with Airbnb. So perhaps it's not that people that started to being forced to use digital to do their sourcing, their purchasing, even the supermarket. They probably will not go back. Yeah, I think. I mean, they will find
restaurants at home.
Yeah, they will find. I mean, that is quite. But in my view, what I do hope, and it is a really hope, that we will be getting the values a bit more balanced. That value does not mean money only. Yeah, I guess we with this.
For example, Mauricio, what enjoy the little things more than, or is that too romantic? Is that too romantic?
If you look into, for instance, that in 2 weeks the air quality in São Paulo has improved 50%. Yeah, it's the first time that you go to Bahia de Guanabara, Bahia. And that was one of the most polluted part of the seas, and you see transparency there. So if we, from the value perspective, continue using much more collaboration and understanding and bringing not only the economic value, together with the importance of sustainability, and we as human beings balance it out, these values, yeah, solidarity, collaboration, understanding that it's not only for me, but it's also for the community. I hope that this will give us a better chance, number one, to reach the famous Sustainable Development Goals that are there, the 17. Don't have to invent anything, but I think they are not easy to reach, and most of them are already delayed towards the KPIs they have. So I think with the right behavior and the right values, balanced values, we as a society, we will be able to, first of all, with collaboration, work more together, and together we are stronger, no doubt about that. And with that, we will be able to build a much better world, not only for us, but hopefully for the generations to come. This is my hope.
Well, it's a hope that I share with you, Mauricio. I think indeed a lot of things will change also in terms of mentality. It brings me also back to the social engagement that you have. You're, as you already said in the beginning, you have a lot of projects that you're supporting. Do you think that this Corona will change something in our approach towards social engagement as well? Will it make people more socially engaged, you think?
Again, this is my hope. I think that people need to understand that sadly, as a Professor Gilding says, I mean, human beings normally react only when they are just close to the big hole. Yeah? If you're not really pushed to the edge, then it's difficult to react. And this is what we are seeing now. We are not close to the edge. We are inside the edge, in the middle of the hole. Yeah, my hope is that, I mean, this is an important stop in the whole journey called life for all of us. And I really believe that people will do, if it's a bit of a change, it will be already good for all of us. This social community way of thinking, yeah, the collaboration, this is thinking about not only my agenda, is putting my agenda, but also see the other agenda with less prejudice. Yeah, less polarization, and this is what I really expect that happens. It's a big hope, and this is the reason why I've been so much involved in so many things that, as you have mentioned before, I truly believe. I mean, the answer for us to speed up the process is to get together. Yeah, and get together not only to have a beer. By the way, it's nice as well, but get together in the sense that we put aside some of our selfish willingness, and also look more from the community point of view. And this is, I fully hope that with the time passing, that we were as a society globally, that we start to play a role much more effective into that.
Well, I was willing to ask you as a last question, what would you like to propose to other business leaders? What would you like to share as positive message to business leaders? Probably this is already a part of the message that you also want to share with your colleagues at other Dutch big companies. Something else that you say, this is what I want to end with as a global message to leaders of the world?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank for everybody that is participating in the middle of the holiday. Thank you for that. I really feel honored with your presence. Now, for my colleagues, I think the message has already been building throughout my answers. And collaboration for me is the name of the game. We can do much better, much faster, and with higher impact if we do this together. And I think it is easy. No, it's not easy. Have we seen an example that it can work? We have plenty of examples. I don't need to mention them here. So let us make sure that under umbrellas like the Dutcham, like also the Works Council for Development, for Sustainable Development, that we are also part of it, and many companies, in fact, 40% of the GDP is represented there, here called SEBETS. Let's make sure that we use these platforms more actively. Let's make sure that it's not a place that I only go there to have a nice chat, but make sure that we act. We have a responsibility much broader than our responsibility of making our own business work. And I think we can do this together.
Well, I think it's a very nice invitation that you already sent it me before, Mauricio, and that I'm willing to pick up with a lot of pleasure. I think indeed it's a nice role that we could play as Dutcham to connect all the companies and to make each other stronger and to get out of this crisis much more quicker because we work together. We're ending up the time. We had 40 minutes of your time. We are there yet. I had a look at potential questions that were coming, but I think that everybody was so passionately listening to your speech that no questions were coming up. So I would like to end the session with you, Mauricio, and thank you once again for joining us today. It was a real pleasure, and we will keep in touch, and we work together on fighting through this Corona crisis. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Dutcham, and have a good weekend all. Thank you very much.
And have a good weekend, a long weekend.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.